Hello, I'm Indiana Simons and welcome to La Trobe University's Real, stories from beneath the surface that illuminate a youth perspective. Music is a universal language and our team took on the task of seeking out different ways in which music affects us and our minds. Tonight we'll be taking a closer look at the intriguing condition synesthesia, where stimulation of a particular sense triggers an involuntary reaction in the subject's other senses. We will also be taking a look into what inspires some of Melbourne's artists and musicians, as well as many of the positives music brings to our community. Our feature documentary this evening takes a look into the music and mind of trailblazing Australian composer Percy Grainger. Directed by La Trobe student Reese Devine, Tall Poppy gives an insight into a man who is not necessarily a household name, but has shaped Australia's musical landscape.
Percy Grainger was one of the most daringly individual composers and musicians.
The child prodigy that grew into this gregarious man of music.
Music educator and theorist and collector.
And a musicologist and a electronic music designer, and it's just and.
The first important Australian composer and pianist of an international stature.
When he was still a child, he was a very talented pianist, and his mother recognised that. She was his first piano teacher, and apparently she was quite a gifted pianist herself and quite ambitious for him. And others around recognised his talent, and at that time in Australia, if you were a talented musician, the thing to do was to go and study in Europe.
Grainger realised early on that to get on as a composer and as a pianist in London in those days, he had to perform at homes. And I think he felt like he was a bit of a performing monkey. He had to perform for the establishment, but he was sensible enough and smart enough to realise that's where his bread and butter was, and he would smile sweetly and put up with it.
He thought music was an opportunity to bring peace into the world, and if everybody could understand music from other countries and other places, then maybe they would feel more understanding towards people in general.
Grainger used to spend a lot of time on Brighton Beach with his mother in the late 1880s, early 1890s. And what he found was the wind coming off Port Phillip Bay would actually howl through, and in those days it was the telegraph wires. It wasn't so much power wires, but telephone and telegraph was very much the new thing. And he found that this wind would blow across the bay and blow through the wires, and it would create this woo and woo noise or sound. This fascinated this boy.
First gliding chords on reed box tone tool, September the 30th, 1951.
Now, for his whole life, he tried to get that glissando or gliding tone from the music that he heard in his head as a child.
But he ended up finding that no instruments were able to do that in his time. This is pre-synthesizers.
In the 40s, he got very serious about this and began a whole series of free music machines. There were a number of them. There was the reed box tone tool, which was harmonium reeds tuned into, I think, 48 different tones per octave, and then played with a paper roll. He would cut holes in the paper roll. The paper roll would slide in front of this box, which was a bank of reeds. A vacuum cleaner would push air into it, and you would get the sound. If he cut a pattern of, a diagonal pattern into the roll, you would actually get the discrete reeds playing very closely together, so it gave the effect of a glide. Wouldn't it be interesting to have a music where the pitch was not fixed but could glide freely and the rhythm could change freely like the rhythm of the waves does? Granger was an inveterate collector and collected all sorts of things, ethnic artifacts from his years as an ethnomusicologist, scores of his composer friends, lots and lots of stuff, plus all the instruments not only that he built, but he had built for him, like all those special xylophones and things that the Deegan Company built. And he wanted a place to store them. He wanted a hoard house, as he called it. He went to the University of Melbourne and he offered to build and develop a museum here. And they built it.
It was quite unusual for a person to build a museum about themselves.
It is strongly autobiographical, but that's not all it is. He wanted to educate the Australian public about certain things. So he had a very strong educative mission, but because he had more of his own stuff than of anybody else's, it is in a way dominated by his material, his personality, his worldview.
And in the 1950s, he came back with his wife for a period and was doing a lot of work on the museum. And he had this bundle of material which he called the Lust Branch, and it said, "Do not open until 10 years after my death." And a lot of this material, it was to do with his sex life.
But Granger felt that that was an essential part of who he was as a composer, as a creative person, and so wanted it to be revealed, and so he thought, well, the museum would be the proper place.
But in a way, it's a pity that people focus on that stuff and sort of trivialise him a bit.
Use Granger as a case study to look at all the aspects of a creative personality.
Granger he didn't do himself any favours, and he laid himself open in this almost unique way. How many people do we know who put everything about themselves into a museum? Either it's very egotistical, or it's very unwise, or it is astoundingly courageous and honest, depending on your view. My view is, what he's done, he's almost laid a trap for us. He's put it all there. What we choose from that and what we take from that is a reflection of us, just as much as a reflection of Percy Granger.
Such a remarkable innovator, he was constantly searching for new and inventive ways to create music. Now for something a bit more contemporary, let's take a look into Melbourne's thriving and renowned live music scene, commonly referred to as the best in the country.
Once you've been doing it for so long, since you were young, and everyone you seem to know is involved with music in some way, it's where you all find joy in life, and it really gives you a sense of place.
So Boyfriend can play a show anywhere in Australia, and all of us were going to know at least 5 to 10 people, I reckon, 100%. Like, I guess it's just something to be proud of. You just want to show, like, your friends and stuff. Like, so if you know somebody that might like it, you want to bring them along and introduce them to this world that, like, they don't necessarily know about, that is, like, a great thing to be a part of, that I definitely enjoy, and I know lots of other people do.
I could listen to my favourite band anytime. I could buy their merch online, but nothing compares to actually being there with my friends. It's probably the place that I enjoy being the most and feel the most comfortable.
Every time I go to a show personally, it's very community-based thing. You always run into someone you know, and I think that's really healthy and should be an enjoyable thing for people. We don't realise how lucky we are in Melbourne sometimes with the amount of great stuff that's going on, and I guess it's an important thing for people to remember that to not take it for granted, and you can see something great every night of the week.
Hi, how you going?
Oh, sorry, hi, can I please get a soy chai latte?
G'day mate, how you going mate? Can I just grab a cappuccino takeaway, thanks? Yeah, no worries. $3.50 there, no worries.
Any calls?
Morning, no, just emails.
Amy, can you come in here for a sec, please?
What's up?
Oh, it's nothing. I've just got this tune stuck in my head and I want to see if you know what it is.
Oh, okay. How's it go?
It sort of goes like this. Do you know it?
Yeah, that's...
Ever had a tune stuck in your head that you can't get rid of? One that just plays over and over again? I know I definitely have. Welcome back to Real. On another musical note, many people experience bursts of colour in their vision when they hear certain sounds or music. This is called synesthesia. Some say that up to 4% of the population may have this condition. Here's an inside look.
My name's Meg. I'm a student at La Trobe and I have synesthesia related to sound and colour. So to me, synesthesia is when I hear a certain type of music or a note on a piano sort of thing, and I see a colour related to that sound.
My name is Solange Glasser, I'm 34 and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Melbourne. When somebody finds out that they have synesthesia, the first thing to remember is that this isn't what we would call a disorder, and it's not a disease.
I kind of thought that everyone just sort of had the same thing, except that they didn't.
This is a normal part of perception, it's just that a smaller percentage of the population has it than the most. So in general, support groups, things like that, don't exist. However, some people do enjoy the idea of speaking about their perceptions, and for that reason there are groups of people with synesthesia that talk about it online, for example, and I myself often interview people with synesthesia, and I'd be happy to put people in touch with other people with synesthesia.
Car doors is red, clapping is like grace. People probably actually have it but don't realise they have it as well, because it's just like, everyone sort of
associates colours with sounds, but not, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What a colourful condition. Tonight, we're lucky enough to welcome La Trobe's leading art therapist, Dr. Patricia Fenner. Dr. Fenner is a senior lecturer in the Department of Public Health in the School of Psychology and Public Health, as well as the course coordinator for Masters of Art Therapy. Dr. Fenner, welcome to Real.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. For those out there who haven't heard of it, what exactly is art therapy?
Yeah, good question. So it's a practice which relies on a trained professional, an art therapist, who might work with individuals or with groups of people to use art materials in an exploratory and expressive way that is well planned in order to address good health outcomes for the people participating.
Okay, and why do you think it actually works?
Essentially, there are some key fundamentals such as the externalisation of internal emotional and psychological states. So by placing one's experience internally into the external world, onto paper or into form, three-dimensional form for example, people are able to actually address themselves in a different way by seeing their internal world represented outside, and to engage with others about that and to be able to have conversations about it.
What separates creative therapies from other types of therapies?
Well, look, there's a lot in common between the expressive therapies. So that's music therapy, dance and movement therapy, and the art therapy. We call them arts therapies, the sort of the overall term. There's a lot in common between them because they're all about expressing, people expressing themselves in a different way from the usual, which is with words. And sometimes these aren't satisfactory and they're not adequate for our needs. So art therapy is very particular because it uses the visual art medium. And there are some people who are very, very comfortable and very keen to see their self represented in that form.
Now, how important is expressing creativity to maintain a healthy state of mind?
Well, that's a very big question. Yeah. I think it would be generally agreed by most members of the community that there is a huge deal of pleasure which is generated from the creative process, whatever kind of creative process that is, whether it's singing in a choir, playing a musical instrument, making visual art, participating in dance, all of these sorts of things, providing someone is doing it because they want to do it and they're not being forced to do it. This induces, for various reasons, according to the modality, experiences of pleasure.
All right, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate the time you've taken to come and speak to us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
More coming up on Real after the break. Welcome back to Real. Have you ever wondered why hearing Bohemian Rhapsody fills some people's hearts with joy? Or why listening to Nickelback makes them want to set their cat on fire? This cute little animation sheds some light on the subject.
Hello there. Have you ever wondered why music makes you smile? Or why it makes you cry? I'm here to tell you why. It all starts from birth when we're newborns. When our mothers usually speak to us in a soft, slow, melodic tone. And from then on, we associate similar rhythms with calmness. However, when we hear low, slow rhythms, we associate that with sadness. Happiness tends to be felt when we listen to fast, high-pitched rhythms. It's believed we listen to music for a number of reasons. To retrieve memories. You may listen to a certain tune because of memories connected with it. Cognitive reprisal. To reshape how you think about a certain situation. Friends. The music acts as a companion for you. Mood enhancement. To turn a bad day into a good day. And finally, social. To make you feel closer to friends and family, and to make you feel a part of a group or community. Music works in incredible ways to help us cope with thoughts and feelings, and to give us a community to belong to.
Wow, what an enlightening animation. Next up is an exploration into the lives of a couple who are both commissioned street artists, decorating Melbourne's walls. In this segment, we hear their opinions on community and how music is an influence in their work.
I started getting involved with painting walls and street art when I met Chuck. He inspired me to start painting walls and using aerosol and doing bigger work. And we moved to Melbourne together a couple of years ago and started working painting murals, and we've been doing that. One of the really cool things about our work is that we get to meet a lot of small business owners, and we get to use our art to complement their business. So I guess that's a community that we're sort of connected to. Like, we know a lot of cafe owners and people that have just started their own gym or their own accounting firm, and it's quite inspiring to get out there and meet all these people that are just kind of following their passion and being able to be a part of that. I think art, especially art in public spaces, has the power to like inspire people, because it's something that people interact with on a daily basis. And I do think we as artists have a responsibility for the sort of imagery that we're putting out there.
I'm always interested in like the cutting edge of creativity, like especially in music. So I always like to see where it's evolving, because it's just evolving in some crazy places these days. And music has inspired a lot of the work that I've done over the years. I got into graffiti, and then through graffiti I got into hip hop. When we're doing commercial work, it might sort of be late night and I've got a lot to paint, and I'll like pump some really loud metal or something, you know, and that stops me from getting tired, you know, and makes me paint faster. Yeah, or you listen to ambient music and you'll kind of go off on a tangent and get lost in it, so yeah.
Finally, we will take a look at a Melbourne-based mentoring program, Dig Deep. The program helps some of our at-risk youth and those from migrant backgrounds find their voice in an intimidating world through the power of hip-hop.
So stuck up in other ways, different agendas.
My name is Jack Hewitt.
My real name is Sabit, but my stage name is Tidy.
My real name is Xavier McKenna. My stage name is Slade Geen.
I first discovered hip-hop when I was probably about 8 years old. My dad had a Ice-T record. It was the single of You Played Yourself. Yeah, I was hooked ever since.
I discovered hip-hop when I came to Australia first. It was like really scary because it's like a lot of different things that I wasn't used to happening. And like the hip-hop that I started listening to, I can't remember what song it was, but that just calmed me down and put me into a place where I was comfortable, around somewhere I haven't been before, you know what I mean? Something I wasn't used to.
I got involved in 2009 with Dig Deep. Pretty much changed my life from that point onwards. Dig Deep is basically just a facility for like-minded hip-hop creatives, for young people from all sorts of backgrounds, from like migrant backgrounds, helping the youth participate, and particularly like disengaged youth. It's really important to get them engaged in things that are part of their generation and culture.
Brings people together. Like, you go to school, if anyone does anything creative at the school I attend, they will get shut down. This is such a positive place. It's so weird coming here after coming to school because everyone's just so happy.
Right now, for example, we're working on an album all about the word purpose and what the word purpose means to you.
Hip-hop gives a voice to so many people. From hip-hop and being at home and writing his own stuff, that means he's not on the street. Hip-hop gives you something to create. And a lot of people love to say that hip-hop is a bad thing. Hip-hop is like gangster rap. But hip-hop, it means you have a way of speaking that no one can restrict. And that's like most powerful things you can have.
Everybody tripping, they ain't never seen the diss. Moving to the times.
That's all we have time for today and for this season. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you've learned something about building healthy communities for a brighter future. I'm Indiana Simons. Bye for now.
The strength of a nation isn't based on acquisitions, rather the ability of its people to be at peace in their conditions. Once we portray what we envision, a new day will have risen, then we will never see our communities as a jail or a prison.